Cutback for Vassilev and Lukic! A banger of a strike for Jovan Lukic's first MLS goal!
It's fallen out to Westfield! Oh, wow! He's nearly taken the roof of the net off! Philadelphia pounce again!
Who gets his goal in his Union debut? The record signing, off and running in his first appearance for the club.
Hello and welcome to the Free Kick Podcast. My name is Todd, and we're 72 hours away, Jose, from the first Philadelphia Union game of 2026, or I should say the first official game of 2026. And it's a little bit weird to me, Jose, thinking that the Union start the season on the road in CONCACAF Champions Cup, and then they start the season on the road in MLS going down to DC. And so we won't be back to Subaru Park until not this week, but the following week for the second leg of CONCACAF Champions Cup. And then they open up at home against New York City, the team that took them out in the Eastern Conference semifinals last year in MLS. But it feels like we never really had our offseason, Jose. I know we've said that a lot, and we were talking about it with our guests behind the scenes. And here we are, Jose, about to start yet again another season of MLS and CONCACAF Champions Cup for your Philadelphia Union fans.
Another offseason in the books that never felt like an offseason, right? In terms of the never-ending news cycle, which is probably a good thing for the sport, to be completely blunt and honest with you, right? We think about NFL, NBA, and it seems like the news cycle never ends. Certainly not here in Philadelphia with the Eagles, etc. So it's good to be back or nearly back. It's fun to think that Philadelphia is playing international soccer again after a 1-year hiatus. So eager to see how it goes, man. Those CONCACAF Champions Cup games can be very, very special. And with all due respect to Defense Force, I'm already kind of excited, genuinely excited about what happens after Defense Force, but they got to take care of business first. And oh my goodness, just such a quick beat of a Saturday, well, I guess Wednesday. So, just we're back at it all over again, it feels like.
Yeah, it does honestly feel like that. And we had people in the comment section before the show even started talking about what the next round of games would look like for the Philadelphia Union, and that could potentially be Club America, which I feel like we talked about this before, Jose. You were at the game at Subaru Park last time these two teams played?
I was not. I was in Sea Isle watching and honestly being very upset that I wasn't there, just because of how cool that looked in terms of finally a lot of culture in that stadium that wasn't suburban mothers and fathers taking their kids. It was nice to see La Raza all over it.
Yeah, it was incredible scenes, and I don't know if an atmosphere like that will be topped ever again at Subaru Park, just because of all the Club America fans and then storming the field. And I mean, all you saw was a sea of yellow, so it would be cool to get an atmosphere like that again. And I haven't watched really a ton of Liga MX this season, but from what people have told me, that this is a pretty weak Club America team compared to what it was back in 2021. So yeah, Philadelphia Union have to take care of Defense Force and before they can worry about Club America. But yeah, nonetheless, super excited for the season to get going. Just like I'm super excited to bring on yet again a returning guest of the show, Daniel Solana. We brought him on last year to talk about the news with Philadelphia Union signing Bruno Damiani from Nacional, and now here the Philadelphia Union are signing 2 more players from Uruguay. And who better to bring on than Solana? Solana, thank you so much for joining us. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing great and keeping warm. Probably not what you guys are doing up north, but it's great to be back here with you guys. It was fun last year when I joined and we talked about Bruno Damiani, and I'm super excited to talk to both of you two guys who I respect in the industry, and I love watching your guys' show. So I appreciate you asking me to come on.
Yeah, exactly. And Jose and I mean, we talked about this, I feel like a couple of weeks ago, that, there's not many people, not to give you a huge ego or anything, Solana, but There's not a lot of people, I feel like, in the MLS sphere that's covering what's going on down in Uruguay. And we said, who more knowledgeable than Solana? So, yeah, again, just thank you so much. But let's go ahead and talk about, I guess, the signing that was announced first by the Philadelphia Union. That was Philadelphia Union announcing the signing of center back Geiner Martínez from CA Juventud until 2027-2028 plus 2 club options. I guess first thing I'll get out of the way, and he's a 23-year-old center back from Colombia playing in Uruguay, and he's had an interesting career helping Juventud get promoted and then qualify for Copa Libertadores. When you look at a player that has had such an interesting career as himself, what would you say his reputation was during his time in Uruguay?
Well, he's your prototypical modern center back, right? But he's got that old school Uruguayan league grit with him. He's a tall guy at 6'3". He's physically imposing and he's dominant in the air, which is really, really good in MLS because you know how physical and how crazy this league can get in the defense. But really what makes him a perfect fit for this league is the intensity that he plays with. He doesn't just defend. He really tries to hunt the ball. And he's really comfortable in a high press system, which is exactly what you guys play right now. And I think that's exactly why the Union targeted him. So I think it's a fantastic signing. He's going to help out the back line extremely well. And I think he'll slot right in and he'll have a fantastic season for you guys.
I think on my end, what's really interesting, and Todd, I guess the way I squared away the move away from, helping a team progress through the pyramid to the point that the team's now playing in the Copa Libertadores is that maybe he was a player that they needed to cash in or a player that they needed to move because they needed to upgrade in that position. From the short time that I watched, and Solana, I want you to sort of make me a liar. It seems like he's just physically imposing, and it's really going to come down to him being more of a cleanup type of guy in terms of the way that Philadelphia plays, that once they get the ball forward, they sort of just really rely on one or two players to, if they have to, make these tactical fouls, right? Where he's very much going to be smothering attacks rather than starting them or anything like that.
Yeah, so I mean, he's used to playing in the Uruguayan league, like I said, which is an extremely physical league, and he's used to covering guys who are would do great things in MLS. In Nacional you have Maxi Gomez, in Peñarol you have Matias Arezo, two big names in Uruguay, but there's also a lot of other forwards that he's covered while he played for Juventud. You both mentioned that he basically did big things for them when he was there at Juventud. He was part of their historic run. Also, he also was part of Central Español's promotion. So he was on a team that was promoted 2 years in a row with Central and then with Juventud. And like you mentioned, Jose, Juventud this year playing Copa Libertadores. Earlier this week, they had their away game. They had lost in Uruguay. They picked up that win 4-3 in Ecuador without Geiner. But Geiner was a person who really earned his stripes in the trenches, right? He didn't just walk into a big club, and he was, like I said, instrumental in the 2 consecutive promotions. And so in Uruguay, we see him as a winner. And he's got that rare distinction of helping Juventud qualify, like you said, to the 2026 Copa Libertadores before turning 23 years old. And because of that, he's a player who's extremely respected in Uruguay for his maturity and the way that he plays.
I'll go ahead and throw a question your way, actually, from the chat, Jose. This one comes from Drew Hartman. He says, do we think the U brought in starting depth at center back, planning any MAC transfer soon? What are your thoughts on that, bringing in Martinez to eventually replace Martinez, Jose?
Martinez to replace Macanya, I think is what you meant.
Yeah, sorry, my bad. Yeah.
No, you're good. I was like, Martinez replaced Martinez. Like, the Union did not bring him back, did they?
Not yet.
No, not yet. Listen, I think Macanya, as I understand it, over the past year or two, has received the team has received a lot of attention and has received a lot of fielding of questions in terms of his availability and what it would take to get him away. I would say the same about a lot of other players. Even I'm sure the Bruno Damianis of the world received the offers to maybe double, if not triple, the money that the Union paid for him, just because, sure, in the score sheet he didn't score 25, 30 goals, but it's quite obvious what he can bring. With Macania as a defender, you don't have to look much further than that in terms of the way that he handles himself, etc. So when it comes to this being preparation for a potential sale, I can't imagine that Philadelphia does anything during this window. Maybe post World Cup or going into the World Cup, potentially there's something, potentially, just depending on what happens in Europe, right? Who wouldn't want a 20-some-year-old kid from South Africa that has the talent the way that he has? And I kid you not, I really do believe that the success that Kai Wagner is having in England right now is really opening up the eyes of other teams across that continent of, oh, shit, Philadelphia has players and really good players that apart. I think of Olwethu, I think of Frankie Westfield as two prime targets for teams to pick away in the championship. But Macania-wise, I don't think it's imminent, but somebody could show up tomorrow with a Brinks truck to the Philadelphia Union to Chester, and maybe the Union changed their mind overnight.
Yeah, and I know, Solana, you don't cover the Philadelphia Union as in depth with as Jose and I should say, and I know you're familiar with them just because of their ties with South America, and they have been hitting that market pretty heavily. It seemed like Venezuela was the favorite place to go, and now it seems like it's kind of Uruguay. But when you look at Martinez's time, and obviously Jose was just talking about Macania, who I think you can make an argument, at least from Union fans or people that cover the team, that he had a better season than Jacob Glesnes, who was a finalist for Defender of the Year, had an outstanding season. So I would imagine he's locked in to be the Union starter. And Jeff Seri Larson, the club brought in this past offseason from Norway, has lots of European experience, 25 years old, kind of a similar profile at the same age when the Union brought Jacob Glesnes in 2020. And so on paper, it looks like Seri Larson will be the partner with Macania. But can you see a world where Martinez becomes a starter with the Union sooner rather than later?
I can. Remember, he's 23, so he's no longer a quote-unquote project, right? However, like you said, I don't cover Philadelphia as closely as you do, but I do remember the Chacho Codettes, and I have attended a couple of matches at Chester. So I do dabble in a little bit of Philadelphia Union, and I understand that you guys have a very specific defensive identity. So I see Geiner as a high-end rotational piece who is going to push for a starting spot by the summer. That's what I see him as. He's pro ready because, as you all know, the Uruguayan league, like we've mentioned many times, is extremely physical. And like I said, or like I always say, if you can handle a rainy Sunday in Las Piedras playing for Juventud against these veteran strikers in the Uruguayan league, I think you can definitely handle MLS. And that's why I think he's going to start off slow, similar to what happened to Bruno Damiani last year. Damiani didn't get a starting spot right away. He was worked into the lineup slowly, correct? And I think you'll see some of that because I do think there is a little bit of a learning curve from coming over from another league, which is arguably a little bit slower. The Uruguayan league, slower in terms of transitions into the attack and putting 1-2s together. So I do think there'll be a short learning curve for Geiner, but I do see him getting a starting spot at least by the end of the summer.
That's what I'm most intrigued about, Solana. And this is not necessarily a question, but rather just a comment to the group to maybe talk about, pick apart, whatever. Having watched, how long was that, Todd? 45 minutes against Tampa that he played, maybe?
Yeah.
Okay. I saw genuinely a guy who is, again, a physical specimen. Just from talking to people around the club, they're amazed at just how he's just genuinely a brick house of muscle moving around the field. I'm really intrigued to see how he picks up. Once again, I think, not to put the Union on a pedestal or make them seem like they're super unique in this, but the Union do have a pretty specific set of pressing cues. Sure, it starts up front with the Damianis of the world. We'll start up front with the Alados of the world this year. But I'm really intrigued to see how Martinez sort of adapts to these very specific moments where he needs to go forward to close something out versus, sitting back and then smothering something. It's going to be really interesting to see where his physicality and his brain can sort of meet at the same time rather than having to rely on just physicality.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how he takes that step in the MLS to, like you said, put one and two together, not just use his physical aspect, but also use his mind and see what kind of a mind he has in terms of soccer knowledge. From what I saw in Juventud, he's a player that can play from the back. He can press up top. He can wait back. He can play really any sort of defensive style. And so, again, other than the short learning curve that I think every player has coming to MLS, because it is a different league when you compare it to other leagues. Like I said, I think he's going to be fantastic for you. I think he's it's really interesting to see how you guys are going after these players in Uruguay, players that nobody really have. I don't not necessarily heard of, but that don't have that big name. Like, for example, Inter Miami, who I cover, goes after always the big name and who can they get that could be a star. And I like the fact that Philadelphia doesn't do that. They go after these gritty guys. They go after these guys who can, be very physical and play the style of play that Bradley Carnell wants to play. And like we've been talking about, these first 15 minutes, Geiner Martínez is exactly that person. And I mean, I'm a little bit jealous, to be honest with you. I would have liked Geiner Martínez to be on Inter Miami. I think he's that good of a player. I think he's good enough to be, an all-star in this league if given the right tools and coached the correct way. And look, like I said, I'm jealous. I like this guy, and I would have liked this signing for Inter Miami.
I often wish, Solana, and maybe you're along these lines too. I know, Todd, not to speak for you, but I think I can in this specific topic. I wish that the league did a better job, and I know Miami does it more than other teams because they can cash it and they should cash it in, but I wish there was a mandatory stream for every single game, whether it's MLS or MLS Next Pro, meaning preseason. I wish there was a mandatory stream. Because as I understand it, per sources, Martinez was involved with the Union 2 match against Rhode Island, and it wasn't a pretty scoreline. But that's where I wish I could see more than just the highlight tape on YouTube, right? Where you see all the shining moments. I want to see him when he fails too, right? Because if it was a 5-1 game against a USL team, as I understand it, I want to see those scorelines. I want to see what went wrong, because they're obviously putting some weight behind him, meaning a long trajectory for his growth. But I just wish there was more film on him. It's hard to get anything, at least the physicality of USL for sure.
Would Philadelphia Union fans be willing to pay for that stream? Because I don't know if you know, but for Inter Miami, it wasn't free. You had to pay $10 for, it was either $4.99 per game or $9.99 for all the games in the preseason. So I think if Philadelphia Union fans would be willing to pay, that's something that they should talk to management about and see if they could stream those games. Because I agree with you, Jose. It's extremely important for the fans to see their team play, whether they do well in preseason, whether they struggle in preseason. You want to see what's going on and not just get those little clips, like you said. So if they're willing to pay, I think it would be great. If it was free, it would be even better.
Solana, you're talking to an idiot who gave a team in where's the Nordsjælland, Todd? Where's that from? What team was that from?
Denmark.
Okay. I gave a Danish team $5 to watch a 90-minute game, whatever it was, 120 minutes. Just like Drew, and sure, sexy, nice new necklace, by the way, sexy hoagie. Love the hoagie necklace that you posted online. I would genuinely give $10, right? And I even pitched this to Todd in a different episode. The Union are fairly philanthropic when it comes to their work with the Philadelphia Union Foundation. Shit, I would pay $15 if you told me that 10 of them went to the Philadelphia Union Foundation and keep the 5 as, whatever, pay the bills. And they have an app. They have all this other nonsense that they just gotta marry the two. But who knows, man? I know we've been screaming from the rooftops, but I'm excited to watch this guy, man. So much to sort of figure out. And I almost wonder, Todd, defense force out in TNT, maybe not a bad spot to start him, just to, a lower quality team, with all due respect to the Defense Force, in a gritty setting in Trinidad and Tobago. It seems like it's a good situation to throw somebody like him out there and just sort of, continue to build that bond.
Yeah, I agree. It's not a bad shout, Jose. And I'm imagining that we'll probably have a press conference Tuesday from Bradley Carnell. Maybe we get surprised and have a Monday press conference before the team heads down to Trinidad and Tobago. But before we switch from defense to offense, a question here in the chat for you, Solana. Jazz says, can Geiner flourish on the left?
So I think he can play on either side, and in Juventud he played on both sides. It just depended, the matchup. It depended who was available on the back line. So he's ambidextrous. He can play with both feet, and I think he can flourish on any part of the defense as long as there's going to be a little bit of a learning curve. The Uruguayan league is different. It's very physical, but it's different than the MLS. The MLS is a lot faster. It's quicker. The pace is a lot faster than the Uruguayan league. So I think he's going to have a little bit of a learning curve. He might have a little bit of trouble with some of the faster players, knowing that he's so big and he's so muscular, and it might be again a little bit tough against faster players. But I think if given the right time, if given enough confidence, I think he's going to be able to flourish, whether it's on the left or on the right. And I'm with Jose, man. I might start watching some Philadelphia Union games. You guys have more Uruguayans than anybody else in the league, and I might have to change my allegiances. We'll see.
Hey, the Union are definitely not in any place where they can start turning fans away. So I'm sure people in the front office, whoever's listening, will take all the fans that they can get. But like I mentioned, let's go ahead and switch from offense to defense. And the Philadelphia Union go once again to Boston River, sign another forward back-to-back seasons now that the Philadelphia Union have done this. They signed Bruno Damiani last year, which was then a club record fee of $3.4 million. They obviously break that record this season, signing Ezekiel Alado out of Sweden for $4.5 million. Reports out there that the Philadelphia Union paid anywhere between $2 to $2.5 million for Agustín Anello, signs through the 2028-2029 season with club options for the 2029-2030 season. When you look at Anello, he is a U.S.-born player down in Miami. And the Philadelphia Union, they did have space on their international roster slots if they wanted to go out there and get another international player. And Jose and I know will talk more so about international slots later on in the show. But the Union decided to go out there and get a player that has a green card, not going to take an international slot. And last year was a breakout year for Agustín. Scored 11 goals in the calendar season. I know they play 2 different seasons down in Uruguay, kind of like they do in Mexico. But 11 goals in a season where he finally got a chance to get consistent minutes up top, was teammates with Bruno Damiani for a little bit in 2024. But like I mentioned, 11 goals, which is impressive, registered 3 assists in almost 2,700 minutes, primarily played on the left wing. But what I think is so interesting about the signing is that he seems like a player that is very versatile, and that's what we've seen the last 2 seasons with the Philadelphia Union, signing players that can play multiple positions. I even think that Bruno Damiani, if you wanted to play him as one of the 210s, just because his hold-up plays so well, you could play him out there too. So the Philadelphia Union go out there, like I mentioned, sign another player from Boston River. Your thoughts on the player that Anello is, Solana?
I mean, I think, again, he was a fantastic player. When he came to Boston River, he was received with a mix of curiosity and high expectations. And like you said, Todd, he's a Miami kid who went to Europe when he was extremely young. And when he landed at Boston River, people really wondered if he was going to be able to handle the mud of the Uruguayan league. And what he did was he silenced everybody absolutely immediately. He became a fan favorite because of his, what we like to call picante, or, Jose would know, spicy. He's direct. He takes people on. And like you mentioned, Todd, he scored 11 goals in 2025. And he was the spark of that team, a team who challenged for one of the 2 titles. Like you mentioned, we played 2 different seasons. We play an apertura and a clausura, as well as a torneo intermedio in the middle of the year. But he was very instrumental in that team's success last year. Not only that, but their coach was then poached at the end of the season to go coach at Nacional. And there was talks of Agustín going to Nacional. So interestingly enough, he chooses to come back home, back to the United States, which I think is the right time for him to do that. Obviously, for you guys, it's fantastic because he doesn't take up an international slot. But this kid is an absolute spicy kid, and he's going to be fantastic for you guys. If you guys like Bruno Damiani, you're going to love this kid.
I'm starting to think, Solana, that there needs to be a conversation between the Philadelphia Union and what's the official name, Todd? Do you remember the official name for like the holding company that the union use? Isn't it like Sugar? Is it?
Oh, Jay Sugarman's company?
Yeah, the not safe
Keystone
or anything like that.
I think.
What's that?
Isn't it Keystone Sports?
Whatever it is, but they need to have it feels like they need to have a conversation with Boston River at this point in terms of, sure, like buying players, but also the fact that, like it could be a great spot to sort of expand the horizons the way that they did with Lingby. And with Lingby, obviously, I believe it's like a 10% ownership, and now they're starting to loan blue chip players out there. I could see a world where it would make sense for some Union 2 guys who maybe are not quite ready for a European jump, or maybe they're more inclined to go to South America over Europe to develop their game, not quite ready for MLS, or they just need playing time and they just don't fit where MLS is, and think about Boston River as the Union. But I'm really intrigued about Anello because obviously I think what really helped his case with the Union is, sure, he brings a lot of great things on the field, but not needing that international spot, I'm sure made things so much easier when it came to the negotiating. And I'm guessing that Boston River also held the Union up for that, right? Adding a few $100,000 to whatever the final price was. But is this a guy, and based from what we saw, it seems like this is a guy that can really stretch the field a bit.
Absolutely. I mean, he's best as a wide forward in a front three or as a second striker. He's not your traditional number 10 who wants to sit and play make. He wants to run right at your throat. He's extremely vertical. If you play him as a second striker, he's going to excel at playing off a big target man. So finding the pockets of space that the defense forgets to cover is going to be big in his game. And again, if you can play him, too bad you guys don't have Ty Baribo anymore, but if you had him, that would be a perfect person to team him up with. We'll see if with Bruno Damiani, if he becomes the starting forward there and he teams up with him. But he's exceptional out wide, like one of your commenters said. And again, he's a competent, like they said, set piece taker and somebody who can really finish the ball. And he's going to be, again, fantastic in that front line. And the good thing about him is something that you guys mentioned is you guys are getting guys who can play multiple positions. So this guy is multifaceted. He can play, again, as a winger. He can play as a striker. He can play as a 10. So you're getting a player who is going to be big in many different positions. And not only that, but he gives Bradley Carnell the ability to be able to play him in many positions and change certain things on the go during games. So this guy, I don't know if he's going to be, an all-star or anything like that, but I think he's going to be a very, very good serviceable player in the MLS, and he's going to bring a lot of smiles to a lot of fans in Philadelphia.
I'm really excited to see it. I think I mentioned this to you, Todd. I know I mentioned it to another really good friend of mine on the phone. I'm convinced that with players like Anello and Damiani, players like Alado are going to finish the season with 15, 20 assists total, if you include MLS hockey assists, maybe even more. I really do believe that they have so much versatility in who can do the hold up play, who can be benefiting from the hold up play, who can be just honestly straight up a decoy to what this team is going to be doing up front. And sure, I think Baribo exploded very quickly in terms of his goal scoring ability. But more than ever, I feel like the Alados, the Anellos, and the Damianis of the world are just going to complement themselves so well this season that it's just genuinely exciting to see how an official competitive match will go against the likes of, albeit Defense Force FC, still a competitive match. So I'm just super intrigued to see how this works.
And we had mentioned Bradley Carnell. Bradley Carnell was asked about Anello multiple times last week in his press conference, and I'll go ahead and, just for time's sake, play one clip from Bradley Carnell's press conference. But this is Bradley Carnell talking about the many traits that Anello possesses.
Yeah, we always look at we speak about like threats, weapons, and what is his weapon? Well, one, he has a tenacity against the ball that I love, right? So first and foremost, work rate, work ethic, commitment to the team when I don't have the ball, and then willingness to run in possession. He's got a good technique with the dribbling, so he can be off the shoulder of the outside back, dribbling in a 1v1. He can pick up in the pocket too, how we like to play as well with interior 10s. So, he shows a lot of flexibility within our game model, and then making the runs he does, and the commitment to a group as a teammate in terms of the counter pressing and the aggressiveness against the ball, how we defend. Because our 10s are the first ones in the trigger usually to press. So he shows a lot of sort of tendencies that we like. For sure, there's coaching now to be happening and development to happen. He's still a young guy. But we've seen a lot of good things. And to have one session with the team and then 1 45-minute burst, we think that was just enough. And then he spends the next day regenning and building up a little bit of, I would say, fitness as well, and stamina, and then progress him as we get going here, but we don't want to risk any injury. But for sure, we liked what we've seen.
And so Anello comes in, plays 45 minutes against against Montreal last week in the final preseason game. Assists Milan Iloski on his second goal. Beautiful link-up play between Ezekiel Alado. Then it found its way to Anello, and then Anello crossed it in for Iloski for the first time finish. And I know Philadelphia Union fans are going to be hoping to see more of that during the regular season and during the many other competitions the Union are going to be playing in. But pretty fair assessment there from Bradley Carnell on Anello, Solana?
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. I mean, it was spot on. He took the words out of my mouth, essentially.
Yeah, and so I don't know what to expect with an Anello, with a Martinez, but the one thing that I do agree on, and Drew brought it up here, he said that never needed the big dollar players, just litter the field with $2-3 million players and we'll thrive. And this is something we've heard from Union fans for years, Jose, saying that, yeah, just spend $2-3 million. You don't need to go out there and spend $6-7 million on one player. But if you buy multiple players for $2.3 million, that would be a comparable team. That's the type of players that you need to be going out there and signing. And yes, we may not know where his roster designation is going to be. Anello, I would imagine Martinez is probably going to be a TAM. I would imagine that Anello's is probably going to be a TAM. He's 23 years old, so he won't qualify for that U22. No way the Union are paying him as a DP. I would imagine it is a high TAM. But yeah, this is the type of the signings that the Philadelphia Union fan base has been wanting for years, Jose. And the Union have had, at least on paper, a terrific offseason.
I don't, at this point, I don't know what else to say, right? In terms of the only way, and I think it was our good friend Sexy Hoagie, great friend of the show, number one fan, I would even argue, that she wants $10 to $15 million players, right? And the reality is that that's not happening until there's new ownership. And the reality is that I think of a Latte La. I think about some other players across the league last year that had these unbelievable price tags. My part-time employer decided to put some of these guys on a pedestal ahead of the season. And next thing you know, they're not coming up on a single headline that's positive because, they're costing so much money and not doing a hell of a lot. So I think more than anything, not to say that the sport can be narrowed down to playing Football Manager, but that's what Philadelphia does in a way, right? It does so well in terms of finding these hidden gems and just sort of making the best out of them. And once again, we've set this line many, many times. There are only 3 or 4, maybe 5 teams across the world that are buying clubs. Selling clubs, buying clubs. The rest, everybody's selling. There's no ifs or buts about it. This sport is not always profitable, and teams just got to do it to keep things moving. And frankly, sometimes it doesn't make sense to hold on to players the way that the Union have. Case in point, the last 2 years of Philadelphia Union ball in terms of how quickly they've recycled this roster. So I don't know. I'm excited about these additions. They're off the beaten path, and potentially one that's just about done too. That's another sort of like, okay, I'm in for the ride with this potential left back. So really exciting season ahead for me, anyways.
Blaze has a question for you. Solana says, how long before Anello starts?
He should start right away. He played 45 minutes and already had an assist. He should start right away.
And could get a chance this Wednesday, just like Jose was making the case for Martinez. Could you go out there? Bruno Damiani, again, we'll talk about him later on the show, but he's missed the last 2 preseason games because he was back in Uruguay, because he's in the process of obtaining his U.S. green card, which again opens up an international roster slot for the Union, which not that they necessarily needed the spots open, but as you and I talked, Jose, maybe the Union can go out there and sell one of those slots and bring some gamut. But before we let you go, Solana, anything else you want to add, Jose, before I have one more question for Solana?
No, I don't have anything to ask. If anything, I'm unbelievably thankful that you're able to hop on with us on the drop of a dime whenever, and as it continues to feel on a yearly basis with all these Uruguayos who are coming in and just blessing the Union with a little bit more culture. So I appreciate you.
And that's exactly where I wanted to take my final question to you, Solana. Yes, the Union have been hitting Uruguay up as a hotbed. I look at Orlando City signing a Facu Torres, a Martin Ojeda, 2 Uruguayans. What makes Uruguayans so attractive, or the league specifically so attractive for MLS to keep going down there and buy players that, people never heard of these guys, and they come in and become stars of their said teams, stars for the league. Look, you see Facu Torres leave Orlando City. Now he's back this season with Austin FC. I think he's going to thrive with that team. We know what he did with Orlando City, but what makes that league so exciting for MLS teams to continue going down there and scouting and signing these type of players?
Well, let me preface it by saying this. If Philadelphia Union are really interested in continuing to recruit in Uruguay, I'm available as a scout. I have at least a half a dozen players that would do wonders in the MLS that I've been scouting in Uruguay over the last 3-4 years. So I would love to do that. If anybody's watching, give me a call. But talking about your question, what makes it so attractive? 2 things, Todd, 2 things. Physicality and the tactical maturity of the league. So in Uruguay, the league is incredibly tough. It's played on difficult pitches. There's very little protection for attackers. And when these kids get to the MLS with these pristine fields, because everybody plays in a pristine field in the MLS, everybody has a top-tier facility, they feel like they're playing on clouds over here. So, I mean, that's one part. The other part is in Uruguay, as Jose and Todd, football is essentially life or death, right? And these kids are basically professionals by the age of 13 or 14. They arrive in MLS with a pro first mentality that the coaches in the MLS love. Plus, the salary cap and the growth of the league provide a level of financial stability that unfortunately the local Uruguayan teams can't match right now. So that's another point that I wanted to make, is the fact that the Union are going into Uruguay to look for players is fantastic, because if you go into Argentina, you're paying an Argentinian tax. If you go into Brazil, you're paying the Brazilian tax. You're paying $15-20 million for some of these players, where in Uruguay, the players are just as good, but they're just worth a lot less. Why? Because the teams in Uruguay struggle to make money. So they're willing to sell at a much lower price in order to make a buck right now than they would be holding on to a player and hopefully selling him for $10-15 million in a couple of years. So I think that's what the 2 biggest things are in Uruguay. And I love the fact that little by little, more teams are starting to go into Uruguay. They're starting to scout some of these smaller teams, because as you know, before it was only Nacional or Peñarol. Now scouts are at every game, Defensor Sporting, Boston River, Juventud, and they've realized that Uruguay is, by the way, the number 1 exporter capita of talent per capita for a reason. And I mean, that basically says it all.
Yeah, absolutely. And as Jose said, so grateful to have you join us here for about 39, now 40 minutes on the show. And I said at the beginning, who better to bring on to talk Uruguayan football than Solana himself? But for our listeners that maybe are just hearing about you for the first time, where can they go ahead and follow you on social media?
You can follow me at Dice El Dani on all my social media platforms. I'm also, I don't know if you guys saw, but I'm wearing the 2026 Uruguay jersey. I got that as a gift for Christmas. So I'm hyped, man. I'm hyped for 2026. I'm ready for the MLS season to start. And I'll be rooting for you guys. Obviously, I'm rooting for Inter Miami, but I really want to see Bruno do well. He's a former Nacional player. I would love to see Agustín do well. And obviously, Geiner, even though he's not Uruguayan, he's representing the Uruguayan league out here. So I'll be rooting for you guys. I'll be keeping an eye out on you guys this season. And maybe when we play each other, you guys can bring me back on, and we'll get to talk a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe it happens in the CONCACAF Champions Cup. Maybe.
That would be great, man. That would be, honestly, the more MLS teams that qualify, the better. And I don't know if you've seen the first rounds, the Mexican teams are not doing that well. Pumas didn't have a good showing in the CONCACAF Champions. And it's going to start getting interesting here over the next couple of weeks when we start getting into the thick of things. But I think Philadelphia has a good shot of making it far.
And last thing before I let you go, Wolfie says, come join us, Danny. Union over Inter Miami. So I don't know. You've intrigued the Philadelphia Union fan base, it seems like, tonight. And maybe they'll be in your DMs trying to convince you to switch your alliance from Inter Miami to Philadelphia, Solana. But once again, thanks so much for joining us tonight on the show.
Absolutely, man. Anytime. And thank you guys. See you guys later.
See ya. All right. So thank you so much for Solana joining us. A lot of fun. Just getting the lowdown on the two newest Philadelphia Union players. But we'll get back to talking about Philadelphia Union because Jose maybe upset some people on social media, which I'm a little bit upset right now on Twitter because for whatever reason, it's just not broadcasting or at least letting people know on Twitter that we're live. But I did see this before we went live, Jose, that you wanted to talk about your jersey rankings. You ranked all 30 kits. And so I'll give you the floor, Jose, because there seemed to be some upset fans with the rankings that you went with this, Jose.
They're upset? I didn't know they were upset. I mean, those first 10 are, I guess you could say number 10, I would swap with 11. I would put DC up there. But you can't deny that Atlanta kid is just pure class. LA, if you understand what's going on with that LA one in the 1960s slash culture that sort of grew out of there. Portland, beautiful. Vancouver, that collar is just amazing. I love the pop of Seattle. Plus, I'm a Seattle stan. Not the sport, but the city. Chicago, I think it's just classy. I mean, I don't know what else to say. What were people upset about? You're muted, my friend. I didn't even see these.
There was some FC Cincinnati fan having a go at you.
Oh,
19th is criminal.
I don't know, man. I'm not a fan of that random. I guess maybe in my mind's eye, the way I see this, if I was to wear this, would I put a jacket over top of the jersey or not to hide some of the cringe? And man, from number 30 all the way to probably 19, even 17 with the Union kit, I'd probably put a jacket over top to not have to be seen wearing some of these designs. Like, are you really? What do you think about the San Jose one? That's where I want to get your opinion. Number 30. Are we in the same boat here?
Yeah, I'm looking at it. So I'll be honest. Like until you had sent us in our group chat the list of your rankings, I hadn't really looked at these kits, and so this was my first time seeing a lot of these teams' jerseys. And yeah, I don't know. I think it's maybe a toss up between New England and
yes,
San Jose. I mean, Orlando City is pretty bad too. I mean, maybe there's a reasoning why they have such a yellow jersey, but Orlando City don't strike me as a yellow team.
Don't fall for the marketing bullshit that all these teams put out. That marketing slop.
Bad jerseys. They try to solidify the bad jerseys by, hey, look, this is why we did this. This is why we did that. This is why we did that. But yeah, I think for me, I mean, again, just quickly glancing at it, it's probably a toss up between New England and San Jose. I mean, horrible jerseys, really, really bad jerseys. Looking at your top five, I mean, I can't really argue against any of that. Maybe I would put Charlotte's in my top five. I mean, that's a pretty clean kit. Seattle, I feel like Seattle every single year, whether it's a home or away kit, always have something really, really good. I had saw somebody posted a picture on Reddit of the new Chicago Fire kit, and seeing that picture compared to the pictures that the team posted up, I was like, wow, this actually looks better than the pictures that the team released. And kind of like the picture and video that Mike Barrera posted of the Philadelphia
Yeah.
Union jersey. I thought that, yeah, I mean, it's still not going to change my opinion. I still don't think it's a great kit, but it did look better in the video that Mike played of the Union jersey. And if I can find it here real quick, I'll play it on the stream. I'm sure Mike wouldn't mind that. But yeah, I can't argue with a lot of these. A lot of them are bland, which isn't always a bad thing.
I feel like
Dallas's kit isn't bad either.
I was gonna say, I feel like the LA Galaxy is the same jersey I've seen for the past 5, 6 years in some way, shape, or form, right? Or I feel like I've seen this style of LA Galaxy shirt at least 5 times in all the years that they've been they've been around. Where I think I was maybe a little harsh is Toronto. I could see the Toronto shirt maybe going a little bit higher, probably higher than the Union, to be honest with you. I'm not very fond of what Philadelphia did with their jersey this year. It reminds me of something that, with all due respect to the creative collective that puts together these jerseys, at least the Philadelphia side, I'm not buying the whole slapping together different images and calling it a kit. I would have thought they had a little bit more than that, creatively.
Yeah, I mean, I said it before when we talked about it last week. Like, I wouldn't mind the Union's jersey being a special kit, a third kit, but a primary
Sure.
kit that you're gonna wear the next 2 seasons. Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't really do it for me. So I'll go ahead and play this video that Mike posted of the
I
jersey.
want
Hopefully this comes out clear for you guys. But yeah, I mean the video does look a lot better, and I don't know, maybe Mike has a career in videography.
Perfect lighting for a home video. That I'll give him. I thought it was pretty damn good. And I don't. This is not a height comment, but no shadows of Mike on top of this video on top of this jersey. And Val brings up a good point. Why is John Hancock's signature there?
That's a good point. But I do have a question for you, Mike, since we're talking about your beautiful video you took. Obviously, you have a iPhone, because there's only one person on a group chat that doesn't allow it to be blue. What iPhone was this, Mike? It's great
He's got
marketing for
he's got money now, so it was the latest.
the latest and the greatest, the biggest iPhone with the greatest camera.
The three cameras in one. No, listen, it's all subjective, of course, and I'm very happy for the people who got this kit and got it customized and got it the way that they want it and are happy with it. I am so thrilled for them. I am so fond of that. Of that Atlanta one. It's just so classy and clean. And that LAFC one, again, spending time on the West Coast in Los Angeles, San Francisco, Seattle, I sort of get where they went with those cities and sort of the design aspect of them, that it kind of hits a little differently. But all that to say, whoever wants to get these kits, more power to you. But holy shit, they are expensive. Very expensive jerseys, once again.
Yeah, and it's crazy, right? I mean, you look at the cost of what some of these jerseys cost to get from Europe. I mean, I know Birmingham City was taking off like $20 to $40 on their kit, and they were still half the season to play. You think MLS is doing that? You think these teams are doing it? Absolutely not. And yeah, it was was pretty cool to see so many European teams do it. I think even teams in the Premier League too, at certain points of the season, start to go ahead and put their jerseys on sale. But it's not really the case with MLS jerseys. If you want if you want a jersey from MLS, you got to go ahead and find it on eBay. But I was trying to stall for time because I did want to give the Atlanta jersey its respect that it deserves. I mean, this is this seeing this picture of Full Jose. This might be. I think you're spot on. This might be the best jersey in MLS this season.
And listen, you don't need to agree with me. I think that this is genuinely the best kit that they put out this year, the league. But this also asks, I think, to me, brings up a really, really good question and maybe a really good point in the future, especially as the league continues to evolve and grow. I really want to see, I should say, a time where teams are allowed to go find their own kit makers. Because I would love to see an Umbro Philadelphia Union kit. I would love to see a Puma Philadelphia Union kit. Not so much Nike, and obviously we see what Adidas does and the disaster that Adidas puts out. Oh yeah, I mean that's just beautiful. I think I love this.
LAFCs.
Yeah, can you pull up Seattle's as well?
Yeah, yeah.
And then ultimately Portland. But imagine a world where you get to see these different teams just sort of create their own with their own kit makers. I mean, a Kappa kit, like it would be awesome, man. It would be so good.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like teams could be a lot more creative if they go out there and they get their own jersey sponsors. Because look, I don't think Philadelphia Union would ever do it, but Icarus, they make some pretty sick jerseys. Support local Philadelphia company. Be cool to see what kind of Philadelphia Union jersey that Icarus could come up with. Seattle's, for people who are just listening to audio only, this is why we always say watch the video, because we do include video. Yeah, Seattle's. I mean, such a sick jersey. This, and I think the thing that I like about Atlanta is that color combination. You don't really see that combination used at all, and so that combination blend it so well. And then obviously looking at Seattle's colors, I mean, it's tried and true. It's typical Seattle Sounders, and I love the lime and the blue combination of Seattle Sounders. And I wasn't sure how I would feel about the new logo that they had went to a year or two ago, but my goodness, Jose, I mean, this is a spot on logo.
Yeah, it's really good. I forget the name of the company that is really involved with Seattle. Sheldon something is the name of the owner. He's on social media all the time, and now I've had some interactions with him. Can't remember the name of the company, but if you can just bring up that, there it is. Maybe I'm a sucker for these like very subtle, though LAFC's is not very subtle. But the design on the background, and I feel like Portland's had pretty good kits over the years. Now you got to tell me, does this look like pretty bad photoshopping on a lot of these when they have the player picture?
Ooh.
Because I feel like the kit looks like the way that the logos are not bending correctly to the way that the player's chest would be leaning forward.
Yeah, it could be. I'm not a Photoshop expert. The one, what is that? Costa, yeah, David DaCosta, sporting that kit. The jersey kind of looks, the emblem looks a little bit slanted. Maybe I'm just seeing things, but it looks a little bit slanted there. Maybe it is photoshopped.
Neither here or there. I'm excited for the people that got their kits, for the people that get their kits every year. I know I'm not one of them. I go and pick up kits for people's kids. Mike Barrera, I have a kit for your daughter that I need to hand over to you. But no, I really do mean it. I do hope that at some point in the future, when hopefully we're still alive when this happens, the league allows teams to go and get their own kit manufacturers and just finds a more creative bone to a lot of these. So really excited to hear what Silly Jilly of the one team we agree on has to say about all of these kits. And Todd, maybe you can put it in the show description, the little website for that little ranking tool. Somebody had asked me about it, and I had already lost it. I wasn't going to go back to check, I must admit, where I got it. So if you can just put it in the show description, people can mess around with it and load them up.
Yeah, for sure. I'll go ahead and do that. But as we get ready to wrap up the show, Jose, let's go ahead and talk about something that I talked about when Solana was on. That is Bruno Damiani in the process of getting his green card, which would then open up an international roster slot for the Union, which would then put them at 6 out of 8. As we know, teams can trade away their 8. They don't need to hold on to all 8. Teams can go out there and trade for more than 8. Philadelphia Union not really in a position in this moment to go out there and trade for more. Yes, it does look like a left back is close to being finalized for the Philadelphia Union. That would take up an international roster slot, but this is huge for the Union to have Bruno Damiani go out there, get his green card, open up a slot. Because I'll be honest, Jose, you and I have been covering this team for multiple seasons, been following this team for years, and things don't go this smoothly for Union players to go out there and get green cards, to get visas to come into the country. So I was shocked when Bradley Carnell announced last week that he's in the process of obtaining that green card.
I thought you were gonna play the video. My bad.
Yeah.
That's okay. Yeah, no, and I think we were also shocked. Was it Jesus Bueno last year during preseason who got his?
Yep.
Yeah. It's a personal thing. I think that they're also the club is very thoughtful about how they announce this and how they share this. I was surprised that Carnell was very open about it of where Damiani was. He's usually pretty quiet about these details. That for him to just like say it was kind of shocking. The way that he kind of just said that the Union are playing Montreal and Cincinnati, but Cincinnati never actually happened for the preseason. It was kind of a shock too. That with this green card, it's just such a favorable move for the club, and obviously opens up a lot of different things for the player in the future, both within MLS but life after. That I'm happy for Bruno. His parents, or I believe his dad's, very much an academic. I think he's a professor somewhere. I don't know if it's in Uruguay or somewhere else, but glad to see him get his green card and hopefully coming back in time for Wednesday's match, which I can't imagine he wouldn't. And if so, it is ultimately Defense Force FC. The Union should not need a Bruno Damiani to make it through away from home.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing a Aldo Anello up top as Bruno Damiani. Not saying that he loses his fitness not playing in 2 games and being away from preseason, but yeah, I would imagine you'd lose maybe a slight amount of that compared to where the rest of your teammates are, just training every single day, playing in preseason games. But look, I mean, there's so many games to be played for the Union. I don't necessarily think that the Union need, at least in this first game, Bruno Damiani. You get him ready for DC United, who I think, look, that's going to be a big game for the Union because they go against former Ty Baribo. Ty Baribo is obviously going to want to make a point against the Philadelphia Union for not giving him a contract extension, not giving him the money that he thought that he was worth. And I think, and I don't want to put words in Bruno Damiani's mouth, but I said it so many times on the show that Bruno Damiani played best with Mikel Ua as opposed to Baribo in Damiani. Mike said the same thing here earlier in the show when Solana was on, said Bruno did well with Ua last year, hoping Anello can bring Bruno like Mikel did. And I agree with that. But I also think that Alado could bring out the best in Bruno Damiani. So I think Bruno Damiani would want to go ahead and show not only, the coaching staff that he can be the striker that they brought him in to be last season, but I think maybe make it a point and show Ty Baribo that, look, yeah, we were a little bit similar. We made the same runs and everything. And you give me a player that fits, the mold of a Mikel Ua, I could go out and produce 10 plus goals. Close last year with 7, had an XG close to 13. Yeah, you and I talk about that Sean Johnson save all the time against Damiani. Maybe a little bit unfortunate not to have more than 7 goals last year in the league. But yeah, I don't think the Union would be in any hurry to get Damiani back if he's not already back with the Philadelphia Union. Again, would imagine we get a press conference on Tuesday with Bradley Carnell. I would imagine actually that might be hosted by CONCACAF Champions Cup. Now that I think about it, Jose, because anytime it's those international competitions, it's not by the union. So we'll see.
It
We'll
would
see
be CONCACAF. Yeah.
So we'll see. I would imagine we probably get an email from the union, but we could also get an email from CONCACAF. Or am I thinking of Leagues
Yeah.
Cup? Maybe it was Leagues Cup doing it with the managers. Maybe it wasn't CONCACAF Champions Cup. I think it was just Leagues Cup. Because remember we got that link that was every single team.
No, CONCACAF does it player and manager at the same table, and it comes from CONCACAF, if I recall. Yeah. Like I'm thinking about when I thought I was blacklisted by Union PR, but it was just my internet connection, and when they were away in South America, not South America, I'm sorry, somewhere in Central America. Yeah, it's CONCACAF. All right, Todd, the people are asking.
What are they asking?
They want our starting 11 for Wednesday.
For Wednesday? Ooh.
I'll start while you think.
Okay, good.
I think Andre Blake starts. Right in front of him, you have Owethu. You have, I would want to see Martinez. Harriel on the right. Frankie on the left. A little Union 2 Frankie flashback. Danley Jovan. Anello, Iloski, Alado Damiani.
It's not bad. Which obviously will bring us into the injured players. I'll play a clip to wrap up the show, but I'm going Blake in goal. On the right, I'm going Frankie. The center backs being Siri Larson and Makanya. On the left, Ben Bender. Just kidding. Nathan Harriel. The 2 6s, Danley and Jovan Lukic. The 2 10s, assuming Indy's good to go. I would say
why risk them?
Yeah, that's a fair point. Same thing could be said about Milan.
Yeah.
Who took a knock against CF Montreal, but I would go Indy and Milan, and then up top, give me Anello and Alado. But I don't know. What about this? Jeremy Raffanello. He got to start in this game. Bradley Carnell had been hyping him up in preseason, being one of the more vocal leaders throughout preseason. What if we see Jeremy Raffanello get a start? Be wild.
All I'm gonna say, brother needs to ball out this year for a lot of different reasons. Guy needs to show his worth for sure. Beyond being a practice player, they're not putting Cavan. You're not putting Cavan against Defense Force FC. I can't imagine that would be imagine him getting injured against Defense Force FC in a game that, after probably 40 minutes will be, or should be, likely 2-0, 3-0 at that point after 35, 40 minutes. Maybe I'm undercutting Defense Force FC, but I just can't imagine that a TNT team named Defense Force, which is made up of is it the military?
Yeah, the actual Defense Forces, yeah.
Yeah, by the Defense Forces they qualify to CONCACAF. There's that, but I don't know. I have a hard time seeing how you put a 16, 17-year-old against that.
Man, if we're saying 16-year-olds, then give me Malik up top. Give him a short-term contract. Look, he bought out for the U17s to qualify for the World Cup. Look, I get it. Not great competition. But still, come on. If we're going to play let's go ahead and play Union 2.
I'm also intrigued. I want to see Finn Sundstrom, somebody who a good friend of ours, Todd, had mentioned is a very, very, very good, was unbelievable in USL last year. Obviously, he was a runner-up for an award. I think it was Young Player of the Year for USL. He was the runner-up, or he was defender of runner-up of the defender. I can't remember what award it was in USL, but he had an incredible USL year, and I think the
Young Player of the Year.
Young Player of the Year. Okay. The negative of North Carolina FC sort of dissolving was the Union's benefit all along in terms of being able to get someone like him and bring him home in a way. So I would love to see a Finn Sundstrom out there too. Just show me more of him, because what I saw in preseason was very much a player still trying to figure out the cues and the moving around and his teammates. So I wanna see him now that he's had a little bit more time, even if injured.
So speaking of Finn, he was one of the many players listed by Bradley Carnell that is currently injured.
Yeah, they've progressed in their rehabilitation and they're on the field returning to play. They got the soccer cleats on and they're doing more soccer specific exercises, I would say, in their return to play. And yeah, I'm hopeful that they would progress. So from our periodization tomorrow, the boys will take off. We'll have some Union 2 game against Rhode Island, and then a couple players who have been with us will get some minutes there, and we're just trying to progress minutes with a few guys as well. So, but Indy, Quinn, Eddy Davis has also been out there, Todd, unfortunately on the sidelines as well. Milan took a bad knock last night on a red card. So we're just establishing, baseline there, what's happening, and we feel that's more of a contusion. And Finn is progressing well with his hamstring. So, I'd say Indy and Finn are probably the closest to the group right now, and then Milan close behind with Eddy Davis, and obviously Quinn the more long term.
So maybe it winds up being Anello and Indiana Vassilev if Iloski's not able to go, Jose. Which, by the way,
Go ahead.
By the way, Carnell never said what the injury was to Indiana Vassilev. He's injured. We just don't know what it is.
Too much Fortnite with Kevin Sullivan. tore his ligament on his thumb. No, jokes aside, I whatever the lineup is, it's just exciting to finally think that Philadelphia's back playing competitive ball right after, albeit a really short time of an off season. It's just cool, right? To kind of have them back and what's going to feel like a marathon of a season all over again. It's I'm excited, man. I'm genuinely excited to kind of watch and follow. And sure, I myself and you, we get pulled 17 different directions during a season, but it's nice to sort of have a grounding point, which is Philadelphia and what they do. So I'm genuinely excited, and I hope everybody else too, for the good and the bad.
Yeah, I am too. And I guess the last thing that I'll say, Jose, before we go ahead and do our spiel of plugging what we need to plug, before we went live, I was setting up the podcast and going through like older episodes, just looking at them, and it had dawned on me, this is season number 7 for me covering the Philadelphia Union, which is insane that we're slowly approaching a decade and time flies. And yeah, it's not lost on me. I mean, we say it every now and then. It's not lost on me, the support that the listeners give and people interact with our dumb faces and our takes that some people don't necessarily agree with all the time. But yeah, I mean, we always want to bring the best coverage that we can to this team, give this fan base the coverage, the content that we believe that they deserve. And so, yeah, it was maybe a little bit shocking for me that this is season 7 for the Philadelphia Union, and just really grateful to be in a position to be able to do this, to travel as much as I do during the season, because I get it, right? That somebody like you, who's has a family, have young kids at home, as much as maybe you would have wanted to travel, there's other priorities. And so this fan base is just, I think when you do get to travel, Jose, we see what some of the press boxes look like. We see how little coverage some of these teams get, and it's a joy, it's an honor to be able to share press boxes with the likes of you, Kyle and Jillian Omni, Mike Barrera, and so many other people in the media. And so, yeah, it's kind of surreal. 7 years going on, 7 seasons going on, covering the Philadelphia Union, and I think this has the potential to be a very special season. I don't want to hype things up too much, but I do think that Union fans that maybe are a little bit upset with some of the moves that were made this year, getting rid of veteran players like Kai Wagner and Mikael Uhre, Ty Bribo, Jacob Glesnes, etc. I think this team's hungry. I think, yes, you do have a very young team, but as Bradley Carnell always says, let's be the hunters, not the hunted. And a team that maybe people in the media are going to write off, saying, "Oh, they got rid of too many good players." I think this team's going to shock people, and so got a lot of support this weekend on my article breaking down the Union's roster. And I thank you, Jose. I said it to you in a text for thanking you for sharing that, and so much wonderful feedback from people. So many people uh, subscribing to the Substack, and uh, yeah, it just amazes me that people listen to this dumb podcast or pay attention to me on social media. So I thank you guys as always.
Hell yeah. Excited to do more shows with you. Certainly more shows with Mike Barrera, the one who brought me to the dance when I first started getting involved on the media side. And just another season. I think more than ever this year, for me anyways, I likely won't be in the press box as much, just out of I mean, I showed you and Mike my upcoming trip in March where I'm gonna be probably in 8 days, 9 days, probably taking about 10 or 11 flights. So I likely will be doing shows from airports. I'll be doing the best that I can to cover the team for you all. But ultimately, it's exciting, man. It's another season. Once again, as always, very shocked that people know who we are and appreciate the work that we do, because more often than not we just put it into the ether and we just hope for the best, but those that come out and say something, we appreciate it. Whether it's good and you tell us that it's good, great. Whether it's bad and you tell us that it's bad, that's fine too. Hopefully it's constructive feedback. All of it's appreciated. So off to another season, man. Let's see how this goes. Interesting.
Where can people follow you, Jose, on social media? Anything you want to plug before we end the show?
My first assignment with MLS starts next weekend. I actually do have the Philadelphia game against DC United. I will not be in DC. That would be the fastest way for me. Sexy Hoagie, do you play Super Mario Wonder? That's what the Talking Flower says. In Super Mario Wonders for the Nintendo Switch. Great game, by the way. MLS assignment. And beyond that, just trying to keep up with life, man. 2 kids, growing very, very fast. So uh, social media and the occasional article I had put on my socials and whatnot, that once again this year, everything I put out on social media slash Substack slash anything will be free once again. So no need to pay unless you feel inclined to support me, buying me a couple of beers here and there slash equipment when I need it.
Yeah, and we are less than a month away for little Rafa. That's suddenly not little anymore. Big Rafa having a birthday. So I mean, time flies by, and yeah, I looked at that in my calendar. I was like, oh, birthday coming up, 6 right there. And how many 6, 7 jokes are we gonna hear, Jose, at the birthday party?
None. It's banned from the house. Banned. Absolutely banned. Not happening.
Good, because I'm pretty sure I made them say it last time I came over to the house. So no more 6, 7, let's go.
Listen, Todd, one clarifying comment here from Sexy Hoagie I want to make. There is a feed, I believe it's via VIX, if you want to go the safe route. I think that's a paid feed. I think Fox Sports 2 has a feed
Yep.
too.
Yep.
But for those of you that feel like you want to try something a little different, should you want to, whether it's a free VPN or a VPN that you pay for, that's a virtual private network for those that are not aware, you can set it to the United Kingdom and you can watch all of CONCACAF Champions Cup for free via YouTube, because CONCACAF streams it on YouTube for free to Europe. So VPN, set it to UK, go to the CONCACAF channel, and every single game for the competition will be via YouTube, which means a very good native player, not whatever nonsense VIX and Fox Sports puts on their websites if you don't have that channel on TV.
For sure. And I guess the 2 things that I'll plug before we end the show, that QR code that's up on the left-hand side of your screen. If you guys want to read my Philadelphia Union season roster, where it stands, go ahead and read that. Had it up at 2,000 words and then broke it down to just over 1,700. So yeah, it took a little bit to go ahead and write that. And again, really appreciate all the feedback, whether it be good and bad. Definitely saw some negative comments, and I guess some people have nothing better to do than to troll. And if you guys aren't optimistic, I get it, but leaving no feedback, just laughing emojis or saying depth or just one word answers, yeah, it's not great feedback and everything. But yeah, I still do see those comments. You're just not going to get me interacting with you. Got to give a little bit more interaction for me to give you a reply. But tomorrow I am going to be live. I actually I don't know if it's live, but I am going to be on a DC United podcast, RFK Refugees, previewing the Philadelphia Union DC United game this Saturday down in DC. And so I'll leave a link in the show description for you guys once they post that. I'll post it on social media once that episode's live. But yeah, looking forward to talking Philadelphia Union DC United. There will be a podcast at some point talking about leg one of the CONCACAF Champions Cup game. I know it's hard for Jose to show up multiple times a week, and I don't want Jose getting in trouble with his wife and kids. So it might be a solo show. I would imagine,
Mike.
but we shall see. Yeah, maybe we have a guest. But yeah, just super excited to get started with the season. Super excited to continuing to have you guys interacting with us, and looking forward to seeing the content that people in this Philadelphia Union world continue to create. But with that said, my name is Todd, and this is the Free Kick Podcast.